can hear us? You're good. Good morning, everybody. Secretary, can you hear us?
Good morning, I can hear you.
Okay, we'll get started here in just a minute.
Okay. Okay, when you come up for public comment and ask the question, the meeting administrator is probably in Las Vegas and they can answer that question for you. All right. Sorry, I'm not administrating the meeting. I'm just here as a member of the, thank you.
Danielle, you ready?
I'm ready, sir.
All right, we'll get started. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the State of Nevada Board of State Prison Commissioner scheduled for today. Where's my March 14th, 2024 at 10 a.m. And Danielle, can I please have you call the roll?
Governor Lombardo,
Present.
Secretary of State Aguilar,
Here,
Attorney General Aaron Ford.
he'll be attending about 11 o'clock this morning.
Okay, thank you. Governor, we have a quorum.
All right. We'll move on to the agenda item number 2, first opportunity for public comment. First period, no vote or action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda unless the matter is specifically posted on the agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. I will impose a limit of 3 minutes for individual public comment. And do we have anybody there in Carson City for public comment?
Governor, we do. We have a couple individuals.
Please come forward and identify yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Great.
go ahead, sir.
My name is Paul Corrado. I'm 4100 Meadowwood Road, Carson City, Nevada, 89703. I was a prison incarcerated volunteer for 24 years. Here are my comments. Number 1, I believe you have them in your packet. On recidivism, do not release inmates unless retraining is completed. Reentry training is completed. Please consider a study to see if the Federal Prison Entry Initiative would be applicable in whole or part to ameliorate some of the funding issues of the NDOC. This could receive bipartisan support given the potential cost savings. Use these cost savings to reinstall pre-release programs cut from the budget in order to reduce recidivism. It is a fact that 95% of all persons incarcerated will be released. 30% will be back, will recidivate. Do you really want to go to the public and ask for another prison? Or would it be better to simply lower the recidivism rate from 30% to whatever is practical? The last thing is that please note that nothing stops a bullet like a job. That's Father Boyle from South Central. What is the life expectancy of the average NV correctional officer post-retirement? Federal statistics state that it's 3 years for a CO. Mandatory retirement at the federal government is 57. So they only live 3 years after they retire. I don't know what ours are. Painkillers, please identify the number of offenders whose path to prison was started with prescribed painkillers. Work on more solutions to this persistent problem. Classes, considering offer classes in money management like the FDIC's Smart Money Curriculum, a financial education program, refund the pre-release assistance programs. Computer classes are needed by both academic and craftspeople programs. There's not many people on the road now in semis who don't have a computer in their cab. Vocational training is needed in skilled workers available, including but not limited to welding, woodshop, HVAC, and green technology. you might want to visit the Federal Correctional Institution in Hurlong, about an hour north from here, to see what they do there, including email. And I want to congratulate Director Dorenza for, after, what was it, 5 years it took you to get the computers, the handhelds, in the prison? I
You've
guess.
reached 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to be real quick, please. Parole board preparation, this is really important. Please consider the dissemination of vetted and attached parole guidance within the NDOC is based on personal observations reviewed by parole board members. Bottom line is that everybody points fingers to the other person in terms of getting somebody ready for parole and parole hearings. They don't have, and I believe that the days of dropping people off in front of the liquor store in Reno with $50 in their pocket and say, go be successful, are over. At least I pray they are.
Paul,
Yes.
Paul, your time is up.
Thank you, sir.
Your time
Please,
is up.
if you would take a look at the rest of the items that I proposed, especially including computer core, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Tanya Brown, Advocates for the Inmates and the Innocent. Good morning.
Morning.
I have provided this board with some documentation I want to discuss dealing with something that had just recently had come up during the February 23, 2024 meeting of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on the Judiciary. Director Zarenda gave a presentation on the legislation enacted during the 2023 legislation. During his presentation, he spoke of AB 292, the Women's Dignity Bill. Mr. Zarenda brought to the attention of the committee and stakeholders his concern for the lack of funding to pay for mammograms. I have a possible solution that might help pay for the women to get mammograms. I want to bring it to your attention and to NDOC's attention that in 1999, NDOC caseworker Ms. Pat McGaffin put together the annual event to help raise money for the Susan G. Komen Breast Foundation. This went on for a few years until Ms. McGaffin retired from NDOC and later would pass away from breast cancer. During the years I worked with Ms. McGaffin on this event, the offenders loved the idea of this, and it's a way for them to give back by participating in this event. And I've provided you newspaper clippings of these events. There were over 1,000 inmates who walked in Northern Nevada. Thousands of dollars was raised for this Susan G. Komen Foundation. Now, if we kind of switch it around a little bit and we make it and we work it for the women within who are incarcerated, and we get grant money for, that's where it could come in for the mobile buses to come in. I have given you a list of my ideas that worked then, and they can work later, and we would like to be a part of that should this become an event in the future. Also, the Ombudsman bill that passed, a great bill. I don't know if you know the history of this, but back in 2011, the legislature passed the Ombudsman bill. It was under the direction of the AG's office, but they never funded it. And then in 2023, it was brought before 2022, 23, and then again, legislation was created for that. And so I just, this is just a wonderful bill. I can't wait for the Ombudsman to come on board. So some of our concerns, and there are concerns that you are not aware of, but the ACAJ and members of the legislature are aware of certain individual things, and I think the Ombudsman needs to know this. And this deals with a computer glitch. I still get information where false felony charges were placed in inmates' files because when notice was installed in 2007, it flipped and put false charges in there, and they still keep popping up. But I'll be able to sit down with the Ombudsman, whoever the Ombudsman may be, and show them where this needs to go into, because the bill did not put that in. And this is something that is of grave concern for everyone. Taxpayers.
You've reached
and
3
inmates.
minutes.
Thank you. I will come back later. Thank you.
Thank you. Cisco, any further public comment?
No further no, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have any public comment here in Las Vegas? Yes, ma'am. Come forward. Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Adkisson, Adkisson from Las Vegas. My comments relate to all regulations under consideration. For the record, I object to this board's unconstitutional practice to adopt regulations without substantial compliance with the public rulemaking process. In accordance with our state constitution, Nevada Article 3, subsection 1, clause 1 and 2, the legislature chose to authorize executive branch agencies to adopt regulations by law, creating NRS 233B. Before any regulations may become effective, public workshops must be conducted. That includes responsive answers to public comments and objections. Furthermore, a review of the proposed regulations must be conducted by a legislative agency before their effective date in order to determine whether each regulation is within the statutory authority for its adoption. This described review is not within the executive branch's power. Additionally, this board is not empowered to delegate authority to the director in order to adopt, promulgate, or trigger an effective date of any regulation by way of affixing his signature. The legislature expressly denied this privilege by way of exempting the department from the statutory privilege of the public rulemaking process. The board's continuing failure to act in conformance with relevant laws and constitutional principles has worked to establish a roguelike culture within the department, as each new governor and director passes through the seat of the public office merely acting in conformance with the established status quo. We are left with a department in dire need of rehabilitation. The director's deference to the existing modus operandi of the department has given us a medical director who is not licensed in Nevada and a Silver State Industries operation that has been, upon our belief and understanding, effectively hijacked, spending taxpayer funds on personal vehicles and projects, asserting the funds or profits to be expended at their discretion, and falsifying accounts in order to conceal this ongoing activity, and swearing offenders to secrecy with non-disclosure agreements. These significant issues pale in comparison to the department's utter disregard for this board's authority. Where, for example, the Secretary of State, an equal member of this board acting as the chief elections officer, did restore my husband's civil rights as contemplated by NRS 213.157, permitting him to register to vote and to cast his vote in recognition of the legal determination that there is no conviction or legal infirmity that permits his restraint to a state prison. It is our belief and expectation that we should be receiving resignations from offending staff. To be clear, we support Director Zarenda in the needed reform of the department. I will be in contact with Deputy Director Cuenga related to Silver State Industries and retaliation against my husband. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Do we have anybody online? No? All right, we'll take this opportunity to close the first opportunity of public comment. Move to agenda item number 3, acceptance and approval of minutes from August 30th, 2023 meeting. Possible action. Secretary, you have any questions on the meeting minutes?
No question, Governor. Motion to approve?
You have a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And we will move to agenda item number 4, Chief Medical Officer Report, representative from the Office of Dr. Assam. Is he coming to the dais? I see him sitting back there.
They're coming to the table.
Morning, Governor. Morning, Secretary. Everybody else, morning. For the record, I'm Vincent Valiente, Environmental Health Specialist with the Division of Public and Behavioral Health. You have our detailed report in front of you, and I'm just going to highlight some key points of our report today. As you know, as required by the NRS, the Division of Public and Behavioral Health conducts regular inspections of state correctional facilities annually. The following report includes data from our 2023 inspections, our finalized data. For the record, the 2024 inspections have not started. Our inspections include medical, dietary, sanitation, and nutritional adequacy. So for 2023, 12 dietary and sanitation critical violations were identified within state prisons. To break that down, no critical dietary sanitation violations were identified at Ely State Prison and Lovelock Correctional during inspection. One critical was identified at Florence McClure Women's Correctional Center and one at Northern Nevada Correctional Center. 4 at High Desert State Prison and 6 were identified at Southern Desert Correctional. I added a note here in my report. I've had recent correspondence with the NDOC and have confirmed that Southern Desert Correctional has begun taking appropriate action to address issues, beginning with the replacement of crucial equipment. For nutritional adequacy in 2023, no substantial violations were identified. However, during the board meeting on August 30th, 2023, Attorney General Ford asked me to consider interviewing offenders during my inspections, and I went forward with that. So the interviews were conducted during the remaining inspections I had for 2023 at NNCC, ESP, and LCC Lovelock. They were conducted at random in different areas such as medical units, offender housing, and facility grounds. During these interviews, offenders interviewed verbalized receiving all meals from the culinary daily. They verbalized all meals are served daily in housing units or at the culinary. When asked about food quality and portion sizes, offenders verbalized concerns with smaller portions and bland food. So these concerns were noted at Ely State Prison and Northern Nevada Correctional Center, and this was prior to the NDOC's menu changes in October, in the beginning of October 2023. The Lovelock Correctional Center's inspection occurred in October, and I did not make note of any concerns with bland food or portion sizes, and I did confirm the menu changes to increase the food portion sizes and variety. Our medical inspections in 2023 occurred at Ely State Prison and Lovelock Correctional Center. They were conducted in September and October. One life safety code violation was observed at Ely State Prison, and 0 deficient practices were observed at Lovelock Correctional Center. To break down some of the other observations we had during those medical inspections, and based upon the standards for medical facilities as provided by Chapter 449, the following are some of our in-compliance observations during our medical inspection. So these were in compliance. Infection control practices, sterilizer testing and maintenance, and training, medication stored, secured, expiration dates followed, medication administration practices, physician orders followed, emergency supplies available, inmate TB testing, staff TB testing, staff CPR certifications, dental care, laboratory staff training and certifications, inmate consent to treatment documented, dental tool accountability, nursing coverage, staff health and safety, and medical records maintained. So that concludes my report today. So for more information, please refer to our detailed report. And with this, I'm concluding this report, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Secretary Aguilar, you have any questions?
No questions, sir?
All right, I have no questions. Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. All right, we'll move to agenda item number 5, director's comments and departments updates. Director Zarenda.
Yeah, good morning. And I think I put 2 things on the agenda that I thought was important to bring up as part of future progress that the agency is making. And one of them was a report that we did to the legislature on Senate Bill 234, which was a pilot program at the women's facility, the Florence McLaurin Women's Correctional Facility. And I thought it was important to bring up with this because it's going to come up in the next couple Board of Prisons Commission hearings because it's still related to telephones, tablets, and commissary. The pilot was so successful, resulted in really good results that we continued the pilot program, and we extended one free phone call every single day for every offender at the women's facility because of the results we got. When we looked at the results, I put into the documents here that we actually had 50 voluntary surveys that the offenders did at the women's facility. They reported there was women at the facility that haven't had phone calls in many years because they had no money or their families had no money. Currently, they were able to reconnect with their families. One of the surveys, we even got back with a note from one of the offenders' family members, a daughter that didn't even realize she had a mother. It was the first time she spoke with her mother. The girl was 3 years old at this time of the phone call. Another one was a woman that couldn't contact help for her husband. Her elderly husband also was having medical issues. She was able to resolve medical issues from the phone call because she was never able to do it before because of no money on her account or her family to be able to make a phone call. I do think this is something that's positive nationally and also will be positive to all of our facilities with the implementation of the tablets and with the new phone contract to see if we can do this statewide at every facility. And that's why it'll keep coming up on the next hearings. The next one I put in here is the capital improvement projects. It lists all the infrastructure issues that we identified in the department. We finally started during the last year, this administration from the governor's office was given the funding and was given the approval to move forward with finally improving our infrastructure. The most needed institution was the Southern Desert Correctional Facility, which you just heard in the report from Health and Human Services, all the violations in culinary. We were approved through the governor's office the funding to finally replace all the equipment, and finally be able to sterilize the trays and all the the kitchen room, the storage areas, the temperatures of the refrigeration and freezing, which are inadequate right now. All the violations that Health and Human Services identified over this last 6 years that were never addressed are finally being addressed, which is a big deal for us and for the offender population. So I just want to thank the governor's office for that. The next one moving from there will be the High Desert Correctional Facility with those infrastructure issues of the culinary. The other infrastructure issues that were identified as the priorities was the fencing at the Southern Desert Correctional Facility, as well as the doors, each of the individual cell doors. Those are finally being addressed as well, which is a big deal for safety and security of the offenders and also the public. That's all I have for those updates. Happy to answer any questions of anything that anyone may have.
Secretary Aguilar?
No questions, thank you. Actually, I do have a question. What is the total cost or the budget for these projects?
So I listed them out, which should be in your agenda. There's 44 projects that are in there. Each of them would have to go individually into each to see what the actual cost was. I mean, we're talking over $100 million, but I don't know specifically on each one with in front of me.
I was just asking, I've heard aggregate. That's good, thank you.
All right, I have no questions. Do you have any other? No. All right, we'll close agenda item number 5. Move on to 6, Ombudsman Services RFP. Director?
So, yeah, Thank you, and good morning again. This RFP process for ombudsman is required to go in front of the Board of Prison Commissioners to approve the steps to be able to put out an RFP. And the approval that I'm asking for today is that we're proposing the following categories for representatives that will represent different areas for not only the RFP committee, but the terms of answering questions and answers with vendors. But what I'm asking for is approval for 5 different representatives to be on the RFP committee. One of them is the representative from the advocacy organizations such as the Nevada chapter of American Civil Liberties Union. The number 2 would be the representative from the Department of Health and Human Services Aging and Disability Services Division statewide long-term care ombudsman program. The next representative from the Department of Corrections Offender Management. Next one is a representative from the Office of Inspector General. And the last one, a representative from the Nevada Office of the Attorney General Pattern and Practice Program, or the Nevada Attorney General representative not connected with representation of the correction, so it's impartial. But I'm asking for approval for move along to start the RFP process with approval of these 5 representatives.
Secretary Aguilar,
No questions? Motion to approve?
as written.
As presented, yes.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And so subsequently, Director, when you anticipate the award would be on the presentation of the RFP?
So the next step of the award is going through the RFP process, and it usually takes 4 to 6 months for the RFP process to be finalized.
Okay. The ombudsman. Who was asking about the ombudsman? On public comment. Oh, Tanya. Can you make her aware if she's not there still, Cisco? I can't see. Oh, there, I see her head. All right, we will close agenda item number 6, move to agenda item number 7, administrative regulations for discussion and possible action. Director.
So doing over the administrative regulations being presented today, the first one was Administrative Regulation 400.02. This is just administrative tours. Since my arrival at the agency, I wanted to add in mandatory tours for administrative staff. In this, the only change that was added to this was making it mandatory that staff will conduct tours every 48 hours, and that the administrative staff at the actual facilities will conduct daily tours. Those were added into this to make sure that we have more safety and security and be able to improve processes. Looking to be able to approve AR 400.
So it's just a matter of clarification. Tour meeting.
So a tour is actually a physical walkthrough of the housing areas and program areas of the facility to make contact with the offenders and the staff that are in those areas to see if they feel or know of any concerns or things that need to be addressed.
Any questions on that one?
No
Secretary?
questions. No questions.
Go to the next one.
So the next one is Administrative Regulation 421, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. The changes in this was requested and required mandatory by the federal government for just language. It aligned the wording in the PREA standard in number 3, which was just formatting, and the language identified that the PREA audit recommended when they clarified. It's really just for improved consistency with national language.
Any questions?
No questions.
Next one was Administrative Regulation 507, which is restrictive housing. This was on the agenda of the very last board meeting, and it was just a language in the first line that was changed. under restrictive housing, housing of an offender in a location where the offender is restricted to a cell for less than 22 hours per day for the purpose of separating the offender from general population was the clarification in that language. That was for AR 507.
Was it inclusive of the word segregation?
So the next, no, the next one that we're going to look at is for administrative segregation and restrictive housing.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, it did include that. It did include the administrative segregation piece as well.
Just want to make sure that was
Got
all
it.
right.
Yep.
Any questions,
No questions.
Secretary?
No questions.
Yeah, the next one I was, that was,
513.
it wasn't segregation. The next one was 513 was the solitary confinement, which it's a definition of,
So let's go ahead and repeat 507 and then go to 513.
So-
That was nothing in the segregation.
so, yep, 507 was, is the restrictive housing definitions. Three different definitions of restrictive housing, solitary confinement, and disciplinary segregation. Three definitions are listed in there. I read the restrictive housing. Solitary confinement are those offenders that are restricted to the cell for 22 or more hours a day. Disciplinary segregation is a separation from general population for a finding of a guilty finding of a violation of a major rule or a rule of disciplinary.
Right. So AR 513.
AR 513 is specifically on solitary confinement. It lists, and this is a new directive, administrative regulation. It lists out the passage in language that was listed in Senate Bill 307 from the 82nd legislative session.
Any questions, Mr. Aguilar?
No questions.
All right, we'll move to AR 600.
AR 600 Healthcare Services. This administrative regulation, it clarifies language that was not in the last one of what the Don, which is our Director of Nursing. It replaces the language that a Don will now be considered under the Healthcare Administrator. So when you hear, when in this directive, the Don will be the definition that replaced it. Also in this directive will be added the overseeing of the care of offenders. The verbiage of the facility Dons will be the one responsible for providing for the detection, diagnosis, treatment, and referral of offenders with mental health issues at their respective institutions. Also added to the Dons was the Office of Human Resources in this administrative regulation. That's it.
Any questions, Mr. Aguilar?
No questions.
All right, we'll move on to 707.
So 707, AR 707 is the offender disciplinary process. This was, language was changed in here based on a court case that we settled upon with an agreement to change language in some of the definitions of the discipline, specifically to add on that attempt is not the same as the actual action. In the last administrative administrative regulation that we had, any attempt was considered a violation of the actual charge. There's a specific charges now for attempt that separated from the actual charge of specifically like if there's a murder charge, attempted murder is separate from the actual murder charge, which was the lawsuit.
All right, any questions, Mr. Aguilar?
No questions.
Would you like to present a motion?
Motion to approve administrative regulations 400, 421, 507, 513, 600, and 707.
All right, we have a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Prior to moving to the second opportunity of public comment, did you want to comment on this, Director?
Yes. Thank you.
Randy, can he provide this narrative during public comment, or can we
I would,
or we wait for it to be agendized in the next meeting?
I think if you want to go back to the agenda where he makes director's comments
Yep.
and just take it out of order, he can make this as part of his director's
Yeah, I'd
comments.
like to put that on the record. All right, before we move to public comment, we will return to agenda item number 5, director's comments and departmental updates. Director Zarenda would like to add a narrative associated with vacancies with the system. So go ahead, Director.
So when the governor first took over and I was designated as director for the agency, the corrections agency had 39% overall vacancy with each of the facilities around the state for correction officer uniformed employees. I just wanted to say that it's happy to be able to say that we brought that vacancy rate down to 27%. We ended up finding out where our deficiencies were in the agency of why we weren't getting offered employment for those individuals that were seeking. We did a large restructuring of our human resources and actually hired a company from outside the agency that really redid our entire process of hiring, recruiting, marketing, and the actual process of onboarding. Currently, we have, I'll read this, we have over 5,000 applicants right now for a correction officer.
Really?
Out of those applicants, we usually get about 10% actually make it to the final, which when I first started here, we had less than 400 applicants at any given time. The vacancies, right now we have 126 correction officers that are in the Correction Officer Academy statewide. We just graduated last week, 48 correction officers in Las Vegas. We have 72 that are ready to go in the academy in the Las Vegas area, the South. It's the most that the agency's had in many, many years, even since I've known since 2016. So we are in a process now of making sure with the new staff coming on board with bringing safety and security back to the facilities, which was long time standing over the few years, especially with the COVID. And all this is going to be improvements to not only the health and welfare of the staff, but also the offenders. And we'll see the public will feel this as well. But it's a big success that the agency needs to show.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Aguilar?
No questions. Congrats on the efforts to increase or eliminate the vacancies.
Yeah, I have to affirm that comments by the secretary. Did a good job on that. The fact that you have 5,000 standing in line is a good sign. And I understand the percentages of success with that, but the fact that they're standing there needs to be commended. Okay, we'll once again close agenda item number 5, and we will move to agenda item number 8, second opportunity for public comment. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment there in Carson City?
Tanya Brown, Advocates for the Inmates and the Innocent. Thank you, Governor, members of the board. First, I want to say this is my first time in quite a while that I've been here. But also, we did have another board member who was hoping to call in, and I see that there is no phone call to call in under the public comment. And I was just wondering, is that normal, or is it going to change? Because all the other boards, the pardons boards, you can call in legislature. So that's that I would like to see. Second, under the administrative regulations, I know that you are not familiar with what I'm about to tell you, and I could base this on documentation that I have in my possession. And I can tell you that under disciplinary actions, and it affects the inmates, it affects their paroles, and it affects the taxpayers because we are incarcerating them, keeping them incarcerated when they're being denied paroles based on information provided to them by NDOC contained within the notice file. And that is this: if an inmate gets into a situation and he wants to grieve it, he goes through the grieve process. And then sometimes it's upheld, usually it's upheld, and then sometimes the offender will then take it to the next step, which would be to litigate it, to take it to court. And in a lot of cases, the offender will be successful on that grievance. But the punishment has already been done. But what I find interesting that you are not aware of is that once that happens, that disciplinary action still remains in the file as though it's there, although the parole board is not aware that the offender has taken it to court, won it, and it should have been removed. So they look at this. That is an impact, a negative impact on an offender seeking a parole. This needs to be addressed, and this should be looked at because, again, they have no knowledge that the offender won that. They never should have had that disciplinary action held against them, and they certainly shouldn't have it held against them for a parole hearing. So this is something that we would like for you to look at, and this is something that should be pointed out to the ombudsman. Again, I would like to, because I do have the documentation, and I'm privy to this. And I'd just like to finish up on what I have provided you for my public comment, and I'll just finish it until my minute or so is left. Thank you. So I said, as a stakeholder, our organization would like to be a part of this event should NDOC decide to bring it back. 1, start an annual breast cancer fundraising event. 2, volunteers will be needed to contact local businesses if they would be willing to donate money for an item in their businesses that could be sold for the event. 3, vendors can make such items as artwork, jewelry, knitting items, etc., to be donated for the cause. Find a place for the community to come.
3 minutes.
It's up.
That's 3 minutes, Tanya. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know why you did that. Cisco, is there any other public comment there?
Any other public comment? No, Governor, thank you.
Do we have any other public comment here in Vegas? Yes. Yes, please go forward, ma'am.
Good morning, Patricia Adkisson again, Adkisson. I just wanted to ask that you look at the documents that I've actually submitted. They go on, regarding voting. My husband's a legal registered voter. The department admits that there's no conviction and he should be sent to Casa Grande this week pending his parole plan. The forms here show that they admit that he is allowed to vote. We have he's a registered a voter registration card, and they admit vote, saying that he can vote and his vote should be submitted by mail, not permitted to vote in person per NDOC policy. So they're just holding him per NDOC's policy. He's not there legally. And then this is a form showing that he actually voted by ballot and it was accepted. Also, the other thing I wanted to mention is that he's been trying to go to school for the last 2 years to get an associate's, an AA in applied science and welding. And in order to complete that course material after nearly 2 years of participation, CO Garcia and Director Kuenga, as respondent superior, have now deliberately and without just cause set out to deprive him of his ability to complete his education by barring him from participation in the classroom activities. He went to go to the class the very beginning of the semester, and CO Garcia, under, I'm assuming, the direction of Kuenga, barred him from going to the class. So now he's got 2 years into it and can't finish his AA. So I'd like you guys to look at these documents, please, and get back with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jody Hocking, Jodihockking. I'm here today on behalf of Return Strong to ensure that we continue to bring the death, murder of Christian Walker into public spaces. In 1 month from tomorrow will be the anniversary of his death. No one has been held responsible for his death in any way. The officers involved are all still working for NDOC. The issue of in-custody violence and death are complicated, and even the appearance of transparency is shrouded in secrecy. Since the public investigation is still considered open, we can't get answers. So we have worked to do our own investigation. The coroner's report stated Christian's death was from natural causes, but we had it reviewed by an experienced independent medical examiner who found the initial results to be inaccurate, if not completely false, and found implications of police influence in the coroner's results. The problems between police and coroners hold an often ignored bias in making determinations on investigations like this. We have received anonymous letters from witnesses, both incarcerated people and medical staff that were there, first responders, and public reports from the ambulance staff. If NDOC or the state police have finalized their investigations, the community is calling for a release of that investigation to be able to review it for thoroughness. I do want to just make a comment. There actually has been a second death beyond Christians that is under investigation now. And one of the things that as an organization we're concerned about during the staffing changes, like it's great that we now have new staff and are building up our staffing numbers, but one of the side effects of that is inexperienced COs who then panic and overreact. And so we do have concerns that that is part of what is becoming a factor in increases in deaths in Nevada prisons, and are hoping that that will be taken in consideration for additional training for people. In addition, we are asking not only for a release of the investigation, but for a citizens review panel to be able to review, similar to what is currently in existence with Metro, to be able to have people who are reviewing in custody deaths outside of the police, state police, NDOC, and have a truly independent review of those deaths. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Anything online? All right, we'll close second opportunity for public comment and move for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
So move. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.